بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين. وفقنا للعمل بما يرضيك عنا وإلى غيرك لا تكلنا. افتح أقفال قلوبنا بذكرك وألهمنا شكرك واجعلنا من أهل معرفتك ولا تجعلنا من الغافلين آمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We are still commenting on كتاب الأربعين في أصول الدين, the 40 principles in religion by Imam Al-Ghazali رحمه الله تعالى. And we reached the chapter about Zakat and Sadaqah. So last time, the final section in the session which we delivered, Al-Ghazali rahimahullah was talking about that charity is not exclusive to money and for those who are rich, but you can be charitable even if you have no money and you are not rich. As he stated rahimahullah, فَإِن لَمْ تَمْلِكْ شَيْئًا فَلَيْسَتِ الصَّدَقَةُ كُلُّهَا فِي المال، لكن كلمة طيبة وشفاعة ومعونة في حاجة وعيادة مريض وتشييع جنازة. So he's saying if you have nothing, so that doesn't mean that you can't do charity, because charity is not exclusively for the money or in kind or in cash actually, but a good word is a charity, as the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, Al-Kalimatu Tayyibatu Sadaqa. The good word is a charity. وَشَفَاعَةٌ, so to intercede for somebody for something good, to ease his way, is a charity. To support somebody who needs your support is a charity. Visiting the sick, not these days of course, is a charity. But these days you can still sort of visit the sick through Zoom, through online, through social media, phone call. All will be classified like visiting him, although it's not the same as meeting face to face, but nevertheless it's a substitute and better than nothing, and it will be in your account as a charity inshallah ta'ala. تشييع الجنازة, so following the janaza, praying the janaza, and then doing this obligation. Although to pray the janaza is not an obligation, it's a communal obligation, which we call in Arabic fard kifaya. So if somebody has prayed the janaza, it's not incumbent on you to pray janaza. Yes. But to be to follow the janaza is a charity for you. And then he says, وَفِي الْجُمْلَةِ أَن تَبْذُلَ شَيْئًا مِمَّا تَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ من جاه ونفس وكلام لتطيب قلب مسلم فيكتب جميع ذلك لك صدقة. Beautiful. In general, he's saying to offer something in support, something you can do. It's not beyond your reach, beyond your capacity, beyond your ability. No, something you can do. To offer something from connections, knowledge, a good word, a nice advice, anything like this. Consolation to somebody who's grieving or anything in that direction. It will be written for you in all of this as a charity. So I can see what Al-Ghazali is talking about, rahimahullah ta'ala. Here, he's saying don't prevent yourself from goodness, even if you don't have money. Even if you are not rich, you can still always do something. So don't be standing still. Be active. So it's an invitation for activism in the positive sense. Be active. Do something. Don't say, yeah, but zakat is for the rich people. I don't have money, so I can't make zakat. I can't make charity. I need money, probably. Yes, you can be negative, but he's saying to you, of course, he's summarizing for us the principle of zakah and charity, the essence of this. It's not about uh, the threshold and the nisab. It's not about this. It's the concept behind it is to be charitable yourself, is to have a generous, to train yourself to be generous. Not all people are on the same level. We've seen earlier in the previous sessions, the response was different between the companions, and as such, it's different between us. We are not on the same page when we receive the call. Yes, so the response will be different. Some people will go and pay £10,000 because they have, and sometimes they don't have, but they will do pledges and do fundraising online, offline, what have you. And some people, they have plenty, but they claim or pretend that they are not listening or somewhere else. So this is the training which we need for such people who are not interested. They do not want to hear the call. They do not want to be active in goodness. So I'm pretty sure you came across many people who are very poor, but their nafs, their soul, their hearts are very beautiful hearts, and they want to save people, they want to help people, they want to go out and do something for uh, humanity, although they will be probably under the poverty level, if you want. But with all of this, they have very generous soul, and they are very uh, charitable. So this is the real wealth. It's not the money which makes you charitable. It's the spirit which you have makes you charitable. And there's a big difference between someone who's wholeheartedly giving the money, even if it's £1, and somebody who's giving 10,000 and he's with grudges in his heart and pain when he's paying this money and it's not coming out with ease from him or her. There's a big difference between the two. This is why in the hadith that might be 1 dirham exceeded 100 or 1,000 dirham. Yes, 1 dirham will be much better than that. This is the essence of it. If if it was with a generous and nice approach, then you give it and you wish that you have more to give. This will be more rewarding than if you have paid 10,000 and you wish I can escape it. You see the difference? Big difference between the two. Although in the scale, when you do calculation, 10,000 is much more than £1, for instance. But in Allah's scale, which is beyond our comprehension, something different. Something different. What will tip your scale is your intention, the generosity of your soul, your heart. Yes. So you and probably Salama, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was very charitable, and radiallahu ta'ala anha, or it might be Aisha, one of them, probably Salama or Aisha, I forgot now. She used to put perfume on the money before she gives it to the faqir, to the poor, because she says that it falls in Allah's hand first before it falls in the faqir's hand. And look at this heart and this soul, so beautiful. She's going beyond uh, the physical stuff. She's going beyond what if you want, uh, obligation is saying. So obligation is you have the threshold, you pay 2.5%, etc. Yes, but this is the letter of the rule or the obligation. But she's not following the letter; she's following the spirit. Yes, it falls in Allah's hand first before it falls in the faqir's hand. Beautiful. And this is what Ghazali will talk about later today, inshallah. We'll touch upon this. So this consideration, it makes your money grow. It's not just your money, actually. As long as you have this spirit, this soul of uh, full-heartedly following and from the bottom of your heart following Allah's commands and not just sticking to the minimum. No, you try your best to be better than the minimum. Then Allah will open the way for you. I tell you, I came across many real stories, not in the ancient time, in our time, from some people who were very poor and they below zero, if you want. They started the business. Just to summarize the story for you, they started a business and they got to a place where, alhamdulillah, it was doing well and they got a lot of money, and a couple of years it collapsed and they came back to zero, even with debts in place to repay. Then they said, okay, we have something wrong here. Let's say they promised that if Allah Azza wa Jal made this venture take off, we are two partners, we will have the third partner. Allah is the third partner. So we will split the profit into three. Myself, my partner, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was the promise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the way for them. And their business was taking off quickly. And Allah opened the way for the profit for them. It was very profitable. So they became bigger and bigger and bigger. And they said, we have enough money now for our families, our children, the extended family. We'll change the division of the profit now. We'll have 50-50. 50 for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and 50 for us. So me, my partner, 25, 50% for Allah's sake. And their business became much bigger, millions. And they have one factory, 2, 3, instead of having 300 employees, they have more than 30,000. And it became bigger. And they came back and they said, look, we don't need that money. We'll make just 20%, 25% for both of us and the rest for Allah's sake. And you can't believe it. They have fed villages and people and plenty. This is a real story. These people with these hearts, Allah will open the way for them and increase their wealth, because the wealth is here first, not here. So this is the real wealth in your heart. So Al-Ghazali rahimahullah is saying, وَحَافِظْ فِي زَكَاتِكَ وَصَدَقَتِكَ عَلَى خَمْسَةِ أُمُورٍ. You have to observe in your zakah and your sadaqah 5 things. So whenever you pay zakah or sadaqah, you have to observe 5 things. Again, he's talking about the spirit. Number 1, al-israr. Keep it secret. Don't put it on your Facebook, social media, this, that, and the other. Yes, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. Don't. Why? It's better. It's better. فإن في الخبر صدقة السر تطفئ غضب الرب. So he's quoting a hadith which been narrated in Tirmidhi. So in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الصدقة لتطفئ غضب الرب وتدفع ميتة السوء. So he's saying, Anas narrating that the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, charity extinguishes the Lord's anger and it protects against the evil death. So it talks about charity, but there's another narration. It says the secret charity. So charity in secret extinguishes the anger of Allah Azza wa Jal and protects you from the evil death or sudden death or something like that. So the Prophet ﷺ is encouraging the secret charity and zakah. Yes, of course, if there's a need to show it, that's fine. But first, try your best not to show your charity, because it's a protection against riya, which is, uh, boasting about it or showing off or having a different intention rather than pleasing Allah Azza wa Jal. It will be, I'm a charitable person, I'm a good person. This will ruin your charity. Be careful. So Al-Ghazali is pointing to this and saying, be careful not to ruin your charity by showing your charity. Be careful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيَةً فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Those who spend their wealth by night and by day, privately and publicly, will receive their reward from their Lord. They have nothing to fear, nor shall they grieve. It's a beautiful verse, and this is one of my favorite verses when it talks about charity, because it summarized everything. So number one, it's an encouragement for us to spend, and it talks about the mechanism of the Ummah of the Quran. So in this ayah, it gives us the definition of our Ummah. Our Ummah is a lively Ummah. They never sleep. Active Ummah. They spend during the night. So those who are spending during the night, it means they are not sleeping. It's not a sleepy Ummah. It's not a lazy Ummah. And you remember after the World War II, the collapse and the destruction which happened in Germany and other places and so on. In order to get back on their feet, They were working 24/7, 2 shifts, 3 shifts, 4 shifts, day and night, until they got to where they are now, leading the European um, countries. Their economy is much better than our economy. Anyway, there's no way to compare now. It's very short time. Anyway, so the comparison here is about the lively ummah, working by night, by day, and they are not sleeping. So they do spend their money during the night. It's a beautiful concept. So have you imagined that? Yes, our ummah will never sleep. They go and work during the night, spending their charity during the night, because they do not want anyone to see them. It's away from people's eyes. It's for Allah's sake. I'm not after people's praise, not after anything like that. So do it during the night. And as you can see, the sequence: night and day, secret and public. You see the sequence, yes? It means that's fine. If it's needed, that's fine. But try your best not to show your charity or your zakah, or things which you do between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. You don't need people to know about it. But sometimes you have a fundraising and you need to encourage people that they are sort of not coming forward to uh, donate for a good cause and so on. So you need to encourage people. It's fine to raise your hand, even if people knew about it. That's fine, but be sure to polish your intention before you do this. And Allah Azza wa Jal says, فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. They will have their own reward with Allah Azza wa Jal, with their Lord. وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. They have nothing to fear, nor shall they grieve. And this statement, the last bit in the ayah, لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون, Allah used this statement with, number one, shuhada, the martyrs, the highest rank. And Allah used this word as well, this sentence, with awliyaullah. ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. So you are matching that level with your charity. If you have the right intention, you reach to the level of shuhada, to the level of the awliyaullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see this, the same ending of the ayah used in these three positions: shuhada, awliya, and al-munfiqun, those who spends for Allah's sake. So this is number one. Al-Ghazali is talking about, rahimahullah, how to hide your charity, not to show your charity unless there is a need. As I told you, with the right intention, with the right training, you can get there, inshallah ta'ala. Then he mentioned, وَالَّذِي يَتَصَدَّقُ بِيَمِينِهِ بِحَيْثُ لَا تَعْلَمُ شِمَالُهُ مَا تُنْفِقُ يَمِينُهُ. As well, he's quoting another hadith which refers to the 7 categories. السبعة الذين يظلهم الله في ظل عرشه يوم لا ظل إلا ظله, as Imam Muslim mentioned and Bukhari. That 7 categories Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give shade on the day of judgment, when there is no shade but the shade of his throne subhanahu wa ta'ala. Among these 7, a man or a woman has given a charity in secret, to the extent that his left hand has no idea about what the right hand has spent. You see this example. Your left hand has no idea about what you have spent with your right hand. And again, this is another example of hiding your charity, not to show your charity. So you will have a VIP treatment on the day of judgment, when people are sinking, some of them in their sweat, because the sun will be very low, the heat will be very immense. So people will be uh, like burning, sort of, from the sun heat. Except some people, they will have the shade. No shade at that time, no trees, no nothing, but only one shade, the shade of the throne of Allah. And this will be given for the VIP people. Yes? You know, when you arrive to the airport, there's a VIP lounge. Yes? This is VIP. You will be given the shade of the throne if you are among these 7 categories. So one of these 7, the one who has spent in secret. And Allah Azza wa Jal says, إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي. If you are to show your charity, it's something good. وإن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم. If you are to hide it and give it to the poor, it's much better for you. Yes? But nevertheless, he's acknowledging both scenarios and both groups, those who give in public and those who give in secret. And again, you can see that these verses are preferring not to show your charity, but nevertheless, if you were to show it, nothing wrong with this. It's something good, rewarding, and Allah will increase your reward for this, inshallah. Yeah, so he's bringing all these evidences from Quran and Sunnah, etc., to show us that this is what's the aim behind this actually. What is it behind this? It's about getting rid of hypocrisy, getting rid of showing off, getting rid of ruining the intention. Then you see me, yeah, I paid that much, I'm a good person, I'm a charitable person, I'm this, I'm that, then I can use this in my campaign to get more votes. Oops, what is this? Are you doing this for Allah's sake or doing this to get more votes? You ruined your charity. You see the difference? Yes. So you get rid of the riyah, you get rid of this kind of showing off. And this is detrimental. Showing off is detrimental. And it reflects on your heart in a bad way. It's very toxic. It kills the goodness in your heart. When you give and your intention is toxic intention, I want to give to show them that I'm a good person. No. He won't be rewarded for this. It's against you, not for you. Your charity will testify against you. We covered this actually in the very first, I believe, hadith in the series of the Qudsi hadith. So among the first people who will be flung into hellfire, yes, 3 or 4 categories. One of them is the rich person. So he will be brought forward, and Allah will ask him, why did you pay this money? He will say, I've done it for your sake. He will say, no, you didn't pay the money for my sake. You did pay the money to be sad. He's so charitable. He's so generous. And it's already been said this. So you got what you are after. Then he will ask Allah Azza wa Jal, the angels, to get this person to hellfire. May Allah protect us. So yes, the intention is crucial in acceptance. acceptance of any of our deeds, whether your salah, whether your zakah, your hajj, your siyam, any of your deeds. So if you are praying, for instance, and you have some visitors, and then you started making your prayer nicer and longer, and this is not how you pray usually. Yes? This is a problem because your salah now is the salah of somebody who's showing off. So you ruined your salah. Unless your salah is a supersonic salah and now you are following the sunnah, then that's a different story. But don't just act in front of the people. Keep this practice after they leave as well, because this is the sunnah, not to rush your salah. You can see the example of doing things not for Allah's sake, for people's praise, for people's consideration, for media, for these kind of things. And then Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, وَالْمَقْصُودُ مِنَ الْإِنفاق. So the ultimate aim from spending, whether it's zakah or charity, the aim is al-khalasu min radhilati al-bukhl, to get rid of this bad character, miserliness. And this is by training. When you train yourself on a daily basis, weekly basis, and so on, to get rid of this miserliness, you can, inshallah ta'ala. I know some people, and they will not offer their children anything to eat before in the evening. Although they have money and they are, mashallah, very good, and Allah has given them a lot, but they say, no, why shall I pay for dinner for them? I can save this money, and it's healthier for them to sleep without dinner. It's the real story. I've seen this interview with that very man. He's so miser person. He will not buy clothes for his children from new clothes for his children. He will buy from the charity shop all the time. Although he has good wealth, and he has a farm and land, and he has you name it, plenty of money. But he is so miser. He doesn't want to spend on his children. He has no fridge because he wants to save money and not to use electricity as well. And long story about this person, which made me, wow, what is this? It's not from history. I can hear him, I can see him in the interview, and he's not ashamed of what he is doing, which makes me, puzzled. How come you can't see that you are wrong? And this is completely, and he's a Muslim, by the way. This is completely against the teachings of Islam. What's wrong with you? So to get rid of miserliness, it comes with practice. And this is one of the detrimental characteristics which will affect the heart, which will affect the actions, which will affect your deeds, affect your acceptance, and so on. And by the way, people do hate miser person. They hate miser people. There's a very famous author in the Arabic literature called Al-Jahiz. He's like Shakespeare in English. Al-Jahiz, Imam al-Jahiz, one of the very famous authors in Arabic. He has a book. He wrote a complete book on al-Bukhala, the book called uh, The Miser People. And he has real stories in that book. When you read it about the miser people, you feel that no, 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 can't happen. This is beyond the imagination. And they have dramatized some of it. I remember when I was a kid, and Japanese television, they have dramatized probably, I don't know how many, but plenty of these stories. They've done it into drama, beautiful drama. It makes you laugh and cry, believe it or not. I'm not sure if it's been translated to English, but it will be interesting to read it in English. Beautiful, very beautiful, and it's painful, but you can see the stories from his time. Al-Jahiz. I'm trying to remember which. Uh, and he has, of course, many other books. Imam al-Jahiz. He passed away very early, actually, 255, 776. So very early in the third century Hijri, 255. And it shows you a lot when you read about Al-Bukhala by Al-Jahiz, the miser people. It's very funny. Many of it very funny. It's beyond your expectations. You won't imagine that somebody will be so miser to that extent. Too much. So Al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, he's saying in order to get rid of this miserliness, you need to train yourself. And sometimes it's uh, like OCD. It's not under your control, so you need a specialist help. Sometimes you might go to a psychiatrist or psychologist to help you to get rid of this habit, to establish a new habit, of course, with the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal, to be away from miserliness and to be generous and to pay your zakah and ask Allah Azza wa Jal continuously. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-jubni wal-bukhl. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he says, Allahumma, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from miserliness. Yes, because this is one of the bad traits. If somebody has this, it's a make or break for a marriage, for a relationship, for trade, for business. And people by default love generosity. And a generous person is very loved by others. For instance, I'll give you a very quick example. You go to a restaurant and you see this restaurant is stingy, is very miser. The portions are very small, the dishes are very small. What is this? We pay them a lot of money. You should be a bit generous with us. And you will be more comfortable when you visit somebody's restaurants and you see he's generous. It all goes back to the owner and the manager, probably. If he is a generous person, if he is a miser person, you see this reflection in his menu, in his service, in his team. You see this. If he is a generous person, he likes generosity, and you feel, I want to come back because it's nice, I felt comfortable. But if you see, and with everything you ask for ketchup, he will charge you for very small stuff. What's wrong with you? This is not the way to build a good relationship with the customer. Again, it's about generosity. I'm not saying you should lose money to please customers. No, but neither being stingy and miser, no losing money and throwing money on the customers. Of course not. In between. So yes, generosity is something makes people comfortable, and this is what I usually say to those who are uh, proposing or receiving proposals for marriage, etc. This is one of the features which you need to check if he's a miser person or she's a miser person or not. And on the list there are other things as well, but this is one of the things, because if he's a miser person, it's difficult to manage and live with somebody like this. He will count the oxygen which you breathe, or vice versa. Yes, it's too much. So yes, Al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala is talking about this issue and um, drawing our attention that we need to uh, be generous. And generosity doesn't mean uh, overspending. Of course not. Be generous with limits. Yes. So it's the moderation, al-wasat, tawassut. As Allah stated in the Quran, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. So we have made you into a moderate nation between two extremes, neither the very stingy extreme or the very overspending extreme. No, it's in the middle. And Allah has stated in the Quran, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَىٰ عُنُقِكَ. So don't make your hand like it's uh, 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 clinging to your neck. It means you don't literally, this is what it means, and then you don't spread it. So the one who is always doing this, he doesn't want to spend. وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ. And do not outstretch it. It means don't throw all your money. Don't do that. It's in between. And this is the right thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will without doubt increase your wealth by spending. We'll see again, this will be the second point probably, which we'll elaborate on inshallah later, that be careful not, the second point is Ghazali saying, so the first point, do the secret charity. Make your best to hide your charity. The second point he's saying, أن تحذر من المن. Be careful from keep reminding people about what you have done. Yes. So you remember we helped you the last time, we have donated this for you, we bought you this, we have, I don't know, supported your child, we have covered medical expenses for the hospital. What is this? What's wrong with you? You've done it for Allah's sake. Don't remind him about it. I'm just refreshing his memory. Why you are doing this? This will hurt him. This is just, you know, affecting his dignity. So some people definitely don't like anyone to help them, let alone coming back to them after a while and keep reminding them and spread the news everywhere that we've done this for Allah's sake. We don't want any reward or anything or that. But what are you saying is the opposite. So you say something, but the action is different. I don't want any reward, but I don't want any praise. But you are after praise when you say, we have helped this person, we have supported him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what do you want out of it? Why you are saying this? So don't show the faqir and the needy that you have done him a favor. Don't. You've done yourself a favor that he accepted this from you. Imagine if you have the obligation and you want to pay the obligation and no one took your obligation from you, as if you did not pray your salah. When you don't pay your zakah, no one takes your zakah, as if you missed the fard. Yes? So you should thank him or her for taking the obligation from you. So you are not doing him a favor. He is doing you a favor, actually. So be careful. And this is something very related to the heart, by the way. Although we didn't yet reach the section 3 and 4, which he dedicates to talk about these traits that related to the heart. Good traits, bad traits. So number 4 will be the good traits. Number 3, the bad traits. And this is one of the bad traits, that you keep reminding people about what you've done to them. Even if you've done it in secret, yes? You didn't tell anyone, but you keep telling that person himself. Yes, yeah, last time we have done this to you. Do you remember? Yes. Yeah, definitely I will help you. I helped you last time. I will help you this time as well. So he keeps reminding him about what he has done to him. I always support your family. I always support your children. I always... It's just like stabbing him all the time, all the time, all the time. You want to do something, don't do this. This is unacceptable. So be careful not to get into this, because this is a sign of an illness in the heart. And Allah doesn't like this kind of person who keeps reminding others about his goodness, the good which he has done to them. Don't. This would ruin your action, would ruin your deed. So you don't want to ruin your deed. So then control your tongue and control your heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to do good with the right intention, with the right etiquette. Ameen. I'll stop here inshallah and open the floor for your questions.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh, for sharing us the spirit behind giving. I'd like to open the floor for questions. And while that's happening, Sheikh, you know this beautiful ayah that you mentioned, on them will there be no grief. Previously, you've mentioned that this grief is the grief on the Day of Judgment. So is this the same grief or is it general grief?
Yeah, of course. Look, you can see it from different angles, but the most important grief is on the Day of Judgment. So the khawf, the real khawf, la khawfun alayhim, they have no fear. The fear has different levels. The fear in the dunya and the fear in the akhirah. The most fearful one, the huge one, is on the Day of Judgment. So if you have this security from Allah Azza wa Jal, لا خوف عليهم, so you have no fear. لا يحزنهم الفزع الأكبر, Allah says. They won't be interrupted or affected by the great fear. لا يحزنهم الفزع الأكبر وتتلقاهم الملائكة, and the angels will receive them. And this is the best reception, the VIP reception. I told you guys. Well, it's not free of charge. You have to pay for this in the dunya. And it is possible. It is doable. We need to work on it to improve ourselves and make it better, inshallah ta'ala.
But Sheikh, do you think it also applies to grief during dunya, because people are afflicted with many kinds of grief in dunya, and would it alleviate some of their grief if they give in charity?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, it will,
Okay.
inshallah ta'ala. Because, I tell you from different experiences, when you give somebody a charity, uh, usually 99.99%, they will make dua for you. And that dua is an accepted dua, because this is what we say, or in the hadith, what it says in the hadith, that supplication of the brother to his brother in his absence is accepted. So it's an accepted dua, supplication. So when they do this dua, and you see there's tranquility descended on you, peace rested in you, and you feel, I wasn't like this yesterday or last week. There's something new in me. There's something, I don't know. This is the effect of that dua, I tell you.
And Sheikh, is it wrong to ask the person that you've given to for their dua? Because somebody
Of
said
course
that
not. Of course
it's
not.
not, because somebody said that if you ask someone for their dua, then you are asking for a repayment for what you've given them, and therefore that's asking for something back.
You are not, unless this is your intention. No, let alone your charity. If you met somebody and you feel that their dua will be accepted, will you ask them to do dua for you or not?
Right.
You see?
Okay.
So you ask for dua from anyone, regardless if you
So
paid
Sheikh,
charity
what
for them
about,
or not.
thank you, and what about parents who keep saying to their children, oh, look at the sacrifices we've made to raise you? Is this acceptable for them to do that?
Let's not get into politics.
Uh, Sheikh, could you please give some light, shed some light on that one?
I don't want you to have any issues with your family anyway. Listen, so we need to train ourselves that when we do things, do it for Allah's sake. Don't expect in return anything. But nevertheless, our nature as humans, we like to see the fruits of our work, appreciation of what we have done, reward in dunya for what we have done. But if we didn't get it, don't moan about it and don't keep talking about it, because this will not make it better, will not change the situation. It gives you more pain. So if you want to say something, say it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say, "Ya Allah, I've done this for your sake, so I'm expecting the reward from you, not from the people." That's it.
But Sheikh, some people say that this is important for the children to appreciate what their parents are doing for them, and therefore they should make it a point to tell them all the things that are being done that they might take for granted.
Listen, if someone cannot understand from the signal, he cannot understand from the word. In Arabic, we say تكفي اللبيب إشارة مرموزة وسواه يدعى بالنداء العالي. So Labib, the smart person, it's enough for him to hint for him. Not say a word, but a hint will make him understand. But somebody else who's not as smart, even if you were to shout, he will not get it.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh. And we have another question, which is, if a person passes away and has left an inheritance behind, but that inheritance hasn't been distributed to the children, does the zakah still need to be paid on the inheritance? And whose responsibility is that?
Responsibility is on the heirs according to their shares. So say he left £100,000 and this £100,000 still in the bank account and they did not distribute it yet. You 2.5% on the whole money before distribution or after distribution, the same. But if with the agreement of everyone, you can pay 2.5% on the whole money if you want. When they receive it, it's already zakat has been delivered for them. If they did not agree, then every individual is responsible for his share to pay 2.5%. But no matter how long it takes, might take 2-3 years, then they pay 2-3 years the repayment of the previous years which they didn't pay zakat for. It's a debt.
Okay. Jazakumullah khairan. And also, Sheikh, to clarify about the left hand not knowing what the right hand has given, does that mean that you shouldn't declare it on your tax return because your tax will be reduced? Or does it mean that you give it without counting what's in the left hand, so you consider it a small deed in your heart?
If you were to declare it on your tax, it will reduce your tax, isn't it?
Yes.
Then that's
because
fine.
then that's fine.
Of course. It's better because you can pay more now.
So it's not about not keeping track and just giving and giving, but it's about
No,
not making it a big deal in your head.
These are practical things. The spiritual between you and Allah, but the practical things. You do it and you invest the money which you save from tax in doing something else as well, charitable.
And what about a husband who's in debt? Is it permissible for his wife to pay zakah to alleviate his debt, or is it not permissible?
Depends if he's a poor person or not, because he might be in debt, but he's not a poor person. He has no cash at the moment because he has some properties and he didn't get any cash from these properties. He's not a poor person, but he is lacking cash. If this is the scenario, then it's a different story. So we need to know exactly is if he's a poor person, then yes, she can pay her zakat to her husband. That's fine.
So presumably poor person means he's got below the level of nisab, which makes him eligible based on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With some more details, but generally speaking, yes.
Okay. And Sheikh, what advice would you give to somebody who's, as their will made them the executor and they were specified to donate to a project and that project has stalled? Is there something they can, what can they do? They've got this obligation to spend this money and it's not working out.
What happened with the project?
So the project was to construct something, but the area in which it's being constructed is dangerous. So they can't now go and sort it out.
Okay.
It was to construct a masjid.
Let them do it somewhere else where it's safe and possible to deliver the similar objective, but not necessarily in the same area. If it's not safe, then similar objective can be met somewhere else. That's absolutely fine.
So you use your judgment as the executor of the will to, override some of the wishes of the deceased.
Of course, because the wishes of the deceased is to do goodness for the community, this community in particular. So if we can benefit this community somewhere else in a safer place, then of course it's much better than say, okay, this is a war zone now, we can't deliver this project, we can't benefit this community, then we will not do anything. Then you didn't achieve anything. This is against the will of the deceased. Deliver it somewhere else to the same community and say, this is exclusively for this community, for instance, somewhere near where they are when it's where it's safe.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh. And if it was a Sadaqah Jariyah project, and then, for example, they spent the money, gave it to the charity, and then that thing didn't get made, would the deceased continue to receive Sadaqah Jariyah for that, even though that is not in place?
It's all about his intention. His intention was to do this, then he will get the reward of his intention, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakumullah khairan. That's nice to know. I think that's all the related questions. There's one unrelated question, which is that when you make, if you make dua in sujood, is it possible to recite verses from the Quran or to recite the durood?
Durood, you don't need to recite Durood in your sujood, definitely. But you can make some verses in your sujood like ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا. These kind of things, yes.
So Quranic du'as are fine.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But not the Durood. Durood, this is not the place for Durood. Durood is in your last sitting. That's it.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykh. I think that's all the questions today.
Okay. Inshallah, we'll finish with that. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم يا رب يا رحمن يا بديع السماوات والأرض يا ذا الجلال والإكرام نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم اجعلنا من عبادك المتقين اجعلنا من عبادك المخلصين. Ya Allah, give us pure intention, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Purify our hearts, purify our actions, and make them purely for your sake, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Allah, enable us to follow the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Make us generous, Ya Allah. Protect us from miserliness, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Arham Ar-Rahimeen. Ya Arham Ar-Rahimeen. Ya Arham Ar-Rahimeen. Make all of us good role models, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Enable us to deliver the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the best manner, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. Cure our illnesses, Ya Allah. Cure our illnesses, Ya Allah. Cure our illnesses, Ya Allah. The physical, the mental, the spiritual, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Forgive our sins, our shortcomings, our mistakes. Forgive our teachers, our parents, our offsprings, our spouses, our friends, our loved ones. Keep us all on the straight path. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ameen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.